So hi Heather, thank you for coming online today to be in a soul conversation with each other.
Thank you for this opportunity just to be present with you.
Thank you. And I've mentioned to you that this is part of a series that I've called A Woman's Rite of Passage to Self-Love, and I've been honoured to speak to a number of women who have been through different experiences and often difficulties in their life, but how that has, emerged them into something more magnificent than they thought they would be. So look, I don't even know you very well. I think I've met you 3 or 4 times. I don't even know your logistics, who and what you do really, and where you live and who's in your family. And that's not of my interest today so much as honouring you as a beautiful soul who, and I so acknowledge you before we even begin, or as part of this, to acknowledge you as a woman who also doesn't know me that well, but does know me well.
Absolutely.
And I thank you for being someone who sees me and hears me and sees what I'm about, because as you know, from one previous conversation, I've often felt invisible. So thank you for helping me feel important and validated and visible and powerful and blooming.
Thank you. The moment that I saw you and that recognition of who you are touched me very, very deeply.
Thank you.
As you are doing, you're touching many, many people by just simply being who you are.
Exactly. A big lesson for me. Now, Heather, as I was walking this morning, I live out here in Dairy Flat in the beautiful countryside, and I was out there walking and communing with nature and communing with spirit. And I got the image of a beautiful urn. And she was incredibly precious and strong and sturdy, but precious and beautiful and of value. And I went, wow, she's beautiful. And my second image was of this urn absolutely shattered into pieces. And I can kind of relate to that myself. And I'm just wondering where that relates to you and your life and what you've been through. And we'd love to hear how that resonates with you, if at all. And yeah, let's keep going from there.
It's quite amazing that you said that. For me, it's more like a chalice. And that I was holding, and I've always called it the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail, and shattered to pieces in journeys and experiences, and I always hold on to it in the ethers. That's who I am, in search of the Holy Grail, so to speak. So when someone becomes shattered through a trauma such as mine, or a experience or a journey that one has gone on, we have to be shattered to be able to come back together again. And it's like a jigsaw puzzle, really, basically, putting all the pieces, the God force, I call it, back all together again. So that vision is absolutely correct for me, but it's for everybody else. So a little bit about my journey was, oh wow, I had a brain aneurysm, a right frontal lobe, which took me into comas and death, and several years having to learn to walk and talk, and so everything was shattered in that moment of that aneurysm. So that included my whole family life and material life to be absolutely taken away in one small second. And to recover, and in that recovery was the most traumatic and the most life-altering experience that anyone could be in that moment. So I just like having a near-death experience and coming back into a body. I not only had to deal with the physical aspect, the emotional aspect. I had to learn to discover life skills again, in speech and writing, in thoughts. But all around me was the trauma through children, husband.
We're talking your children or other children? We're talking your children, yeah?
Yes, my children, my family, and the medical field. So you had a lot of things going on, and of course my soul essence, while being in that nothingness, I was screaming, someone help me. Who was there to help me because of the language, the craziness of being in a body that wasn't moving, deficits creating functional impairment. So I'm looking at it now to where I am today, that I was stripped back, but I rebuild myself again.
It's interesting you say that, because when I was at my humblest, which is very different to your experience, I kept hearing, because I would cry out and I would cry out. I could cry out, yeah, I had that capability. And I would cry out and I'd cry out and I would cry out yet again. And in my four walls, I still remember it, I kept hearing, in your nothingness, you have everything. I didn't get it at that time. I'm slowly getting it. Tell us about your nothingness then. Tell us more about that. And that you had everything.
And that nothingness was and is everything, even to this day. So in that nothingness is God essence, divine essence, intervention, I call it. Because you are surrounded in that nothingness is being centered. So everything else that's around you is really trivial. The losses, and it's coming back to divine presence. And this is where you really get to know who you are. You are part of all that is I am that I am. So for me, I always went back to that, especially when I began to live in the community again.
So take us back to the physicality of what occurred for you. So when was this, and what occurred for you physically?
Okay,
what
physically.
Look like? So just so we get a sort of tangible picture of what this looks like.
With a brain injury, we kind of lose control of our bodily functions, which is that we take for granted. Our speech, our capability to recognize something, because of everything's all double Dutch, really. And I had to personally train the brain to there was one point, I'll bring it back to that, like I thought that I had to put something in the fridge, but instead I put it into the oven. So it was that life skill. And I would see a word would be given to me in speech and language therapy. I saw what I saw, but it wasn't what was presented in front of me. So everything was back to front. And so with the physical aspect, even walking, I thought my brain was taking me over there, but actually it was taking me over to the left. And to carry something.
Paradox is what I'm hearing.
Oh, yes. everything was all roundabout face, and I thought that I was hanging up onto a cup in this hand, but really I was hanging onto this cup in this hand. So yes, I had to learn the most simple tool, like this brand new baby, having to dots and I's, and especially in the walking. Oh yeah, I had to learn to physically walk out onto the street because my bearings weren't. I had to have someone with me this whole time. Otherwise I would have walked over into the traffic when I was supposed to be going this way. It's an incredible journey. And of course, the sticks, I didn't want a walker. So my father made me a power walking stick to hang on to. That's what happened to be able to get the control back into learning how to just simply learn to make a cup of coffee. The simple things of life that we take for granted.
And the period of, I don't know what to use the word recovery. What words would you use here? There's another word.
Recovery. No, I was in recovery. I'll put it recovery because it took a long time to train the brain again, to kickstart. But you see, I had spirit on my side.
Oh, exactly. Secret little weapon.
I had God on my side.
There was spirit on your side before this occurred, or was that a consequence of what occurred for you?
During my near-death experience. And
I'd love to talk to you about that. I'm fascinated by that. I've always been fascinated by death, and people say, oh, I don't want to talk about that, and I love talking about it. Take us there. Take us there to that experience. I want to be part of that.
You know, we take that for granted also. I can remember distinctly the moment that I died. I left screaming because of the sounds in my head, because of the pain in my head, because I wasn't being heard out in the physical presence. I was actually being heard in the spiritual presence. So when someone is going through a trauma of death, at one little point of having not to surrender, but in that breath allow someone else to come in because we weren't heard out here. So there was a presence there that whole time, awaiting for me to let go and allow. So yes, in that near-death experience, I think it was on 7 Sharp. They did it so well. They did it so well. I went into a hall of healing, I call it. But this is my journey. Everybody else has a different experience in near-death experience. And in there, in that moment, the pain that I was feeling physically left. And finally, I was allowed to go, oh, I'm free. And in there was this huge hall of armor, this beautiful armor, this cryptic shields.
Oh, so you're talking armor as in O-U-R, A-R-M-O-U-R.
Yes, armor.
It's interesting because I was thinking of ama, which in many languages is the soul, the spirit. Wow, okay. So armor.
And it was a huge cathedral, this huge hall. And I was just standing in awe and realizing that I was pain-free. But thinking about it is that I forgot about who I left behind. I was more concentrating in that freedom, that weeping, that sorrow, the screams had finally left. And there was this presence of all that is within there. So I wasn't traveling along a tunnel. I was more traveling into, wow, just being called. It was like a calling to keep going through. And there was a presence there in white. And I felt unclean. And I was fearful of what I was actually experiencing and what I was feeling. But they weren't verbally speaking to me. It was the sounds in my head that you could hear the calling come.
So like an impulse or a...
Just a calling that your soul essence is automatically going through up to where this presence is. And an unworthiness came over me about 3 times. And then finally that form turned, and then you saw the beauty and you were looking in the eyes of God, but those eyes were the whole universe and this unbelievable love. this love that I know that I brought back with me. Now I'm crying because that love is...
No wonder it's radiating. I can see it completely around who you are. You're just, wow, your room has just filled completely with blue, my friend. You're just rocking it.
And there were only words spoken, just 3 things. That I was going back, that there is no hate in perfect love, to seek the blue pearl and to set my people free. So all of a sudden I left screaming and I came back screaming, if this makes sense, because what happened was I had to come back down into the density, which I call Earth, planet Earth, the flat line. So you've experienced the ultimate love that everyone is looking for, that is striving for, and next minute you are back into trauma, fearful, screaming. But I'm blessed because I was put back into sleep. Actually, God put me back into sleep to get accustomed to living into the body, or moving from the layers of God back into the density of the body. And so in that awareness, each time I tried to awake and open my eyes, everything was so crisp and so clear, and so you could hear a pin drop thousands of miles away. And then your body would start shaking, and then God would put you back to sleep again. And he would gradually bring you out of that deep sleep, to get you accustomed to living on planet Earth, or the Earth plane.
Transition back here, yeah.
Transition back here. So for me, I look at it as that you were being reborn again. And this is how it's like returning to innocence. So my eyes, when they finally opened, all I saw was beauty. And I haven't lost that. I do struggle, but I'm bringing that beauty into where I am now. It's return to innocence. We all need to return to innocence and that divine love, and that powerhouse of who we are as a human being.
Now, I'm fascinated around this whole idea of soul. And do you think, I know as a person I can feel broken, but can my soul be broken?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Just my experience again. My soul was absolutely destroyed because I had to learn to live in this flat line, and being able to hear the thoughts and the sounds in people's heads. Yes, we do come back with a higher perception about things. And yes, I have spent many, many years, I mean, it was 16 years ago, coming up 17, when I hear the sounds and the thoughts in someone's head, I'm shattered. And my soul just goes down. But what I have to remember is that I have to rise again. I have to rise again.
So what you're saying, is that what some people would describe as an empathy with people, with that intense feeling with and for people, or is it something different? Is it one of the same, or?
Yes, it's one of the same. It's one of the same.
You sense and feel what they're sensing and feeling.
Yes. Yes, and I think I've spent many years on the radio describing what it's like living on the flat line, and shared my journey of having to go out into the supermarkets and putting my feet on the ground, because you can feel, sense, taste and hear the people that have gone before you, and you're collecting the sorrow. So I've had to go into pretty heavy training to be able to not to absorb that. So I do spend a lot of time with God. How is it that people like us, or how is it that humanity can live on this flat line? Because, in empathy, empathic people, they're scared all the time, and they lose it all the time, and they don't know whose thoughts that they're thinking. They don't know when they go to sleep at night time whose dream that they are dreaming. And for me, we're living in a collective field, and there's a lot of thoughts that we have to discern. And especially with illness, we can collect illness in that collective field. And this is where I love to thrive in there, because I've had to experience this myself. Whose pain am I feeling? Why am I feeling so?
How do you discern that, Heather? Because there'll be many people who are listening who are supportive of others, maybe nurses, doctors, healers, whatever they want to describe them as, or mothers, or people.
Yeah.
How do we, particularly us very feeling, empathic people, I want to unload, so we don't have this heavy sack of everybody else's stuff? Because I know for myself, I carry a lot of other people's stuff as well. But how can we become lighter?
Okay, my way of having to cope, it just is very, very simple. Whose thoughts am I feeling? When this wave comes at you, the sorrow that comes at you or towards you, first thought, right thought, does this belong to me? And if you can get into the habit of questioning that, 80% of the time it actually doesn't belong to you. But this is the gift that sensitive beings of who we are, empathic people, we're actually a walking prayer, because we can transmute that. We can do the blessing at a distance, quantum field. You can actually be that blessing, because it's actually a gift. You're not here to suffer. So if you can turn it all around and get to know truly that this is a gift, that this is what humanity is wanting, then this is where it comes into play. You are here to be a walking prayer. And
I love that, Heather. I was just so thinking about my paternal grandmother this morning, and she was a Christian woman, and that's certainly the upbringing that I grew up in. It's not my experience of life now, but she was a great prayer, and every morning she would name people by name. And I love the word, it's a very religious word, but I love the word, intercede for someone, or intercession, I think it's called, is it?
So that's why I've got this, I started an intercessory.
Love it.
Around the world. Like, my walls are covered with prayer, because everywhere between the hours of 7 and 8, every single day, the people that I work with, their names go up there, and I intercede on behalf of that. I intercede for a child on the street. Yes. To the war-torn countries. This is what being an empath is all about. It's nothing to be frightened about. And once you can handle being that, then you understand that you are actually a gift for humanity.
And that's what I've been being called to more and more, and particularly this week, so perfect conversation here, to just be the interceder.
The interceder.
And many of us in our line of work, service to the world, we may not be out there doing business, but how powerful are we to, in our quiet space, alone sometimes,
yes, absolutely,
with others, where we can have such an impact.
And I suggest you do a little bit of an experiment. I enjoy going out there and to a mall. Don't be afraid of malls. and you're there, and you're just the observer. Whoever you believe in, God, divine, whoever, what is it that you're being of service? What is it that you need me to do today? And as that observer, you're looking at, oh my gosh, there's a mother over there. She needs your help. Thank you. And I go, and when I say that, thank you, thank you, thank you, all of a sudden, because of who you are and your deep knowing, that is the blessing into her etheric field. And you'll notice that the babies will turn around, the old people will turn around, and they'll look at you in that moment. In that moment is the blessing, and that means that you have given another human being hope. You have, exactly when I was in my near-death experience, what was given to me, I'm passing it forward out here. So I personally have seen and witnessed amazing miracles of being that empathic being. And I'm all for empaths. And I personally say, thank you for coming, because you are that warrior and that living prayer by just naturally being who you are. You don't have to go off on some guru state. You just turn up in that moment and witness the miracles.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what I've often said to people. I'm often sitting at a random cafe. I do my best service to humanity, I believe, when I'm dancing in a bar or hanging out at a cafe, and I do exactly that. It's that conversation that is initiated, or that moment of eye contact that has happened, or that choice of words that I've chosen.
And the thing is too, with the giftings, this gifting, everyone's gifted in this area. You can claim things like a post. Oh, I claim that. And when people walk past it, they receive a blessing. I call it, oh wow, it's just amazing to see. And also too, being in front of people, especially in your work too, by being who you are, that loving, divine presence of who you are, is the transformation for another human being, is the osmosis effect. And it's the most simple gift that has been given to humanity, but we have forgotten that. We've simply forgotten who we are. And what you're doing too is bringing back to people and women, here we are, and you are so worthy. I could go on and on and on, but you know, and even with the healing field, I struggled in the past. Why is it that people aren't healing? I always believe that a healed, hurt. And if you're not ready to do the work within yourself,
absolutely, then
don't go out and try and save someone without yourself first. And it's coming back to self, coming back to who you are as this beautiful, divine, gorgeous, sassy woman. And you're here to make a difference. And I'm excited about these times.
Same. Now tell me, I'm just thinking, going back to souls here, and this is a question that's come from my own experience, do you think we have a chance in one lifetime to have two soul purposes, or two souls is probably what I'm asking. The reason I'm asking is one of my own transitions feels like, and I know having, where do I start? My first soul journey, I believe, was to be a great mother to my children, for example, okay? And I was led into a marriage where I took on 3 little Lees, and their birth mother came to me in soul and said, hey, you're in here, boots and all, thank you, and also exited me out of that period. And I almost feel like that was kind of one experience of my soul. And then something new is open, and I'm curious as to whether we have different soul purposes in our life, or whether that we're I don't know what.
I know that I've seen people with 2 soul essences, and people have tried to take out one of them, but I prefer to allow it to be naturally, because you will know. And that is giving your power back to you. You will know. For me, I whisper to soul. I whisper to your soul essence. And as I'm talking to a person physically, I'm actually whispering to their soul essence, hello, you can come back now. And so my experience is, if soul has had a bad experience, they'll normally sit out here, frightened, And the physical presence is shaking, especially in bipolar or a traumatic experience in birth or anything.
Yeah, I'm thinking abuse here, rape.
Rape and soul essence, you've divided, you've separated. And because, this is very gifted as being an empath, because you've got to be very discerning, and trust is very important. Then there's that bringing into a homecoming. And in that breath, the home and all pain, all suffering, all trauma, everything that precious human being has experienced is finally home. And when I say that is because we don't say enough to each other, welcome home, welcome to planet Earth. Thank you for being here. And we should do that to every single person. So when I met you, there was that connection straight away. And I'm not talking about twin soul or anything like this. It's accepting another soul essence, another human being. Hello, I see you. I'm so glad that you are here. And we haven't done that for a very long time to each other. And soul is here. So yes, there are two that I have seen. Every case is completely different because that's their journey. And there is soul, like say in death, which I've experienced in my nursing. One soul is leaving, and then all of a sudden there's a portal or a vortex that's opened up for many souls to come in. I can write a book about soul essence and the closing of the door. So there's a whole multitude of souls awaiting out there to come to planet Earth. You would have heard the term of walk-ins. One soul leaves and another one comes in to be of service into the world. But for me, I'm only interested in all humanity, helping the people out on the street, the everyday doctors, nurses, child givers, mothers, fathers, babies that are suffering. And I allow God to do his work. I don't interfere with what he's got planned for another human being. But soul is soul, and we just welcome. There's I read up on about it, we've got a tormented soul, you've heard the term of poor soul.
Yeah, sure.
Lots of labels, I'll call it. Twin soul, all sorts of things. But I just allow it to unfold by itself, but use my discernment for another human being if they are in suffering.
So I've worked with numbers of women who have lost babies, children, young adults to suicide, for example, and my heart is in there with them. What encouragement, words of wisdom, or something from your experience would you offer these women and parents, particularly when our young ones have gone early? Well, early is maybe not the right word either, but have gone at that moment in their life.
Just know that you're okay, and allow whatever has to happen. Let it be. Let it come out of you. The grieving. I'm a great believer in allowing that grief to come up. Don't suppress it. Be there. And if you're wondering about where your child is gone, I've got years of experience with this. I can tell you about the astral planes and the etheric planes and the God plane because I've been there. I know it. I'm always doing the quantum jumping. Know that beautiful soul, your beautiful child, your husband, whoever is safe and whole and well. they can only be that. And in the moment, in this time, I'm a great believer in they have to go to be able to return again. But be open to miracles and possibilities, and know that you personally have done something great for yourself and for God, and the blessing is on you, and thanking you for being that mother, for that precious soul. And you are a precious soul. And I embrace you, because it's the biggest courageous thing that you could possibly do here on planet Earth.
Heather, I so love you for your calmness of spirit. Were you always such a calm person pre what occurred to you?
Oh, Janelle.
Is that how you used to be? Were you a calm spirit before your brain aneurysm, or was this your rite of passage to more calmness and serenity in your life?
Look, prior to that passage, I was a good old-fashioned hippie.
Oh.
With all these babies, 6. And I brought my children up in a little place of Golden Bay.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure I was the first one that invented mung beans and pink overalls. You know, it hasn't been easy for 16 years. I will say that I didn't know anything about spirituality up until about 6 or 7 years ago now. And I had to go through that to be able to come back to me, because I didn't know anything about psychic, all that stuff. But all I knew was I was seeing miracles. And so I've done this figure of 8, and I've come back to me. I've had to come back to me, because who I am and what I know works. Yeah. And when I secretly am behind closed doors. I go out to the masses in very poor places. Not many people know, but I will say that to you, Janelle. I have to put on surgical gloves, because I'm seeing people with limbs dropping off. I'm seeing the actual humanity and its pain. But for 1 second, just recently I did this weekend, gosh, hundreds of people felt like. I will not leave that room until I've seen that last person. And all I'm doing is in touch of love, and I'm seeing this beautiful car victims, babies, tumours. And when I see that beauty within another human being, and that's that soul-to-soul connection, and that soul-to-soul connection is in the osmosis effect that person is going to heal from their injuries. And I've got people who are walking again. Yeah. I have young girls who've been in traumatic car victims and car crashes walking again. I'm blessed, because that's what we are supposed to be doing as a human being. But I wouldn't be able to do that if I hadn't have worked on myself first. Meeting people like you, of course.
Heather, I am so appreciative of our conversation this morning. You are a bundle of light. That's all I keep seeing on my screen here, as well as you are just a bundle of light and love, and without sounding new agey, because it's not new agey, it's just the words that are coming out of my spirit today. You are a bundle of light and love and calmness, serenity, and I so honor you for being that. Thank you. Intercessor. I'm glad we talked about intercessory stuff today. You're the intercessor.
Yes, you can miracles happen being that intercessory. I call it intercessory prayer. Well, we have to be. That's why we're here.
Yeah. Thank you. If people are resonating with you today and are curious about you or would love to speak with you, is there a way that they can?
Yes, of course. Thank you. On my website, which is www.justheatherellestrate.com.
heatherellestrate.com. Thank you so much, Heather.
You're so welcome.
So well.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.